A quirk of the Because We Win fixture list means we've got a first immediate rematch of the season on today's show, as last week's winner, James Eastham, takes on the man he took the crown from, Will White. Welcome to Betting Weekly Extra Time European Edition. You're with myself, Dan Roebuck, while senior handicapper Steve Wyss is also with me. We have got 6 picks, 3 big price plays, and a handful of leans across a midweek card in most of the major leagues in Europe. Steve, this is an immediate opportunity for Will to avenge his defeat to James from the weekend.
Well, this is the real matchup, isn't it, Dan? Will knew that he kind of had a free hit over the weekend. He was unfortunate to run into a good old-fashioned Rafa Benitez 1-0. But like I say, we always knew this was likely to be the matchup again. So bring it on, and let's hope for a profitable show.
Well, as it is, we reversed the roles. So James goes first. And obviously, we are playing Liga, as that is James's specialist subject. And we don't play Liga again until the middle of January. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens next week, or I should say later on this week, should James win. We wish him all the best. James, Paris Saint-Germain against Metz, the first we're going to look at. All the games I think in France did midweek are Wednesday, 3 p.m. So good time for US bettors. PSG are minus 770 here, with Metz plus 1,700 and the draw plus 750. Now, Paris Saint-Germain moneyline bettors, handicap bettors, and those that played the over 2.5 goals all lost at the weekend. And ensconced in all of that, of course, was one of your selections for the show. They were pegged back late by Lille. But James, you're going again with the champions.
Yes, I'm going again on PSG here, Dan. So, yeah, for anybody that did follow our tip on PSG, it was that very late equaliser from Jonathan David of Lille that cost us. We were on PSG to win that game on the handicap, which they looked like doing until virtually the last kick of the match when Lille made it 1-1. But actually, that late goal, Dan, has encouraged me to back PSG again here, because I think those dropped points will have had PSG angry after the game. They didn't play particularly well against Lille, but it was the sort of match they should have seen out. And I think having dropped points there, they're now going to be very keen to finish the year on a high. And they've got a great opportunity, I think, to do that here against a Metz side who in recent weeks have looked really weak. They've started to look actually like the team that we thought they were going to be all season in a way. Metz are newly promoted. On paper, they look like they'll be relegation contenders this season, and they've done a bit better than that for most of the season, but they've lost their last 3 matches going into this game against PSG, and they haven't actually scored in any of those 3 games. And in most of those 3 games, I personally don't think they've looked like scoring. So that's actually crucial for the handicap pick here, because I'm backing PSG on the handicap, minus 2.25 on the Asian handicap, which is available at minus 114. So you need PSG to win this game by 3 goals in order for this to cash. And I just feel that Metz's lack of firepower themselves is almost the biggest factor for me on this game, because I do think PSG will go for it. I do think they want to finish the year strongly, and get a big home win here. And I can't really see a way that Metz can hurt them in open play. You never know if they might get a penalty or a set piece or something like that, but they are really struggling at the moment. So it does, to me, look like the sort of game that PSG could and probably should win comfortably. So, yeah, combination of those drop points against Lille and the fact that Metz are not playing particularly well and have got very little firepower is the reason that I'm backing PSG again here. So it's minus 2.25 on the Asian handicap at minus 114.
It's a big handicap to cover, Steve.
Well, I looked at this game and I definitely like this bet. I personally probably prefer PSG win to 0 at minus 125. You've got to take your pick, really. I don't see Metz scoring. I said on the show a few weeks ago, didn't I? They won a couple of games in a row and they scored 3 goals on both occasions. But, you know, like I said, they shot their load for the rest of the year. They desperately need offensive reinforcements in January to have a chance of staying up. And I'd be surprised if they have more than 3 or 4 shots in this game, let alone get anywhere near the score sheet. So it's difficult to argue against it. It's just a question of how much PSG want to rack up the score. It was very uncharacteristic of them, wasn't it, to concede so late. It was a very avoidable goal. that the overrated Jonathan David scored. I think I'd rather talk that one in, didn't I, after the show last time? But maybe that'll fire them up. But it should really be completely one-way traffic. Metz are awful.
Paris Saint-Germain on the Asian handicap, they gave up 2.25 goals on the main line, -114 for James's first selection here. Incidentally, Will's got 2 picks, and just ahead of Will's first, I think Will's got it spot on with the tactics here, with a sort of bigger price play, which we're going to talk about first, and then a shorter one a little later. I think that's the best tactic for the challenge. But Will, let's bring you in for Atletico Madrid against Getafe here, which is a Tuesday game, 3:30 Eastern. Atletico short -275, Getafe +800, the draw +360 here. Athletic lost to Athletic Club at the weekend. It's a game that I didn't see, but by all accounts, Athletic Club were good. You are expecting an upswing from Athletic. Not necessarily a win, though, because the win doesn't hang on your bet, does it? Talk us through your play.
Yeah, Dan, it's not often these days you see both teams to score yes priced at plus money, let alone +128. And that's going to be my selection here in the Atleti Getafe game. I think there's a historical perception around both of these teams of being very defensive minded, but it's not necessarily the case this season. If you look at the evolution of both teams' offensive and defensive outputs, there's been a significant change over the last couple of seasons. Getafe, for example, a 45 expected goals seen in their 17 LaLiga games so far this season. That's 2.65 per game, compared with 2.05 per game in the 2021-22 season. Atleti, on the other hand, have seen 51 expected goals from their 16 games. That's mammoth 3.25 per game, compared with 2.65 per game in the 2021-22 season. The reason why I'm comparing with the 2021-22 season is because this is something we've spoken about on this show before. There seems to have been a distinct evolution in Simeone, Atleti's coach, tactics since the World Cup last year. And since then, we've seen a marked increase in their offensive output, but also their chance concession. So far this season in away games, so Getafe are the away team here. They have scored in 6 of their 9 away games this season in La Liga. Atleti have conceded in 7 of 8 home games so far this season, which is quite surprising from a Simeone coached team. So I think, all things considered, I do expect Getafe to get on the score sheet here, and I think we all would expect Atleti to score at home to a lower mid-table La Liga team. Getafe's turnaround, well, if you look at the production they're getting from their attacking threats, they brought in Mason Greenwood quite controversially from Manchester United. In his 10 starts, he scored 3 goals and had 4 assists. At the same time, Borja Mayoral, 10 goals and 1 assist in his 16 as starter. There are talks of him being called up to the national team again, both players in very good form. Furthermore, Jose Bordalas has switched his formation up and his style of play. Previously, Getafe have been playing a 4-5-1 system with De Genis kind of as a sitting midfielder / third centre-back. But they've evolved this season to playing a 4-4-2, replacing that centre-back or extra centre-back with a centre-forward, essentially, and really playing 4 strikers with Greenwood and Mata out wide. So they've really been quite attacking in their approach to games so far this season in La Liga, and I just don't see how both teams to score yes has been priced up at such big plus money.
Yeah, +128 is a big price. I did a little bit of digging into the stats, and I found out that this season, at least, that after Atleti's 3 previous defeats, Steve, both teams to score yes has cashed every single time. It's a tiny sample size, but just makes you think that Atleti don't revert to being cautious. They do think, well, the next game we must win, and potentially that opens up the door to concede as well. I think this is a really good play from Will.
That's the sort of stat digging you've become known for, Dan.
I know, mate. That's my shtick now at the moment. That's it.
Yeah, very, very interesting stuff. I don't really have a lot to say about this because I don't ever get involved in these two teams. I can't remember having a bet on a Getafe match this season, and I rarely get involved with Atletico Madrid because I just can't get a good read on them. Getafe, I've been warned off them because they're known for being very, very negative. But they do have goals in them this year. They've scored in 12 of the last 15 games, which is interesting. I think Will made a good point that they've signed well this season, controversially with Greenwood, but he's made an impact, hasn't he? So in terms of the footballing on the field, then, fair play to them there. And this is a local derby as well, isn't it? Of course. So they're going to be bang up for it. They have scored on both of their last trips to this stadium. It's a huge price, by the way. I mean, you don't often get both teams to score yes at plus 125. Like, that is really, really big price. I mean, you're talking, we've got the African Nations Cup starting next month. That's the sort of price you expect in those games. So in a league, in a La Liga game, there's no doubt about it. It does scream value.
Speaking of big prices, let's get some big price plays from the boys when it comes to our hot dog section. And again, it was profitable at the weekend. 33 picks all told this season. James coming up good once again with a shot on target play. And we've got another one from James shortly, but we'll get Steve's pick first. This is 12:30 Wednesday. We go to the Bundesliga, and the love-hate relationship continues with Union Berlin, Steve.
I don't think there's been a team more mentioned in any of the shows, European or Champions League, than Union Berlin. So
have we ever got them right this season, though? That's the thing.
Yeah, sometimes, occasionally. The hot dog for the week I'm going with is Union Berlin on a -1 Asian handicap against Cologne, plus 175. So if they win by 1 goal, we get a complete refund. But I think they can win this game comfortably. Cologne are awful at the moment. They don't have goals in them. I've mentioned this a lot of times. Mainz and Cologne, they miss a lot of chances. They don't look like hitting the back of the net. I watched the game against Freiburg yesterday, and they offered nothing. Went down to 10 men with about half an hour to go, and then got battered. So I think they're in a real mess. These Billy Goats, they're goats are known for being very sure-footed, but these guys are on very dangerous territory. They look like sliding around everywhere, and I think RJ's on them, isn't he, to go down?
Yes, he is.
There's a good chance that happens unless they change something up, because I think Union Berlin, let's let them off against Bochum, because your boys delivered a really good game there, Dan. Brilliant. That was their best performance of the season. But it's kind of been there for Bochum, hasn't it? Their underlying metrics have been good, but Union Berlin just played Real Madrid, and maybe that took it a lot out of them. But back at home now, if they play like they did against Mönchengladbach, a 3-1 win, they will definitely win this game, probably with a bit to spare. But I like the -1 Asian because I just don't think Cologne hit the back of the net. You could also, for those really after some value, you could also back Union Berlin to win to 0 maybe. But I think the -1 Asian at plus 175 gives me a good chance of landing a big price hot dog here.
We had a big price hot dog landed with the shots on target market in France. James, you've got another one for us. I think have you cashed 3 or 4 of these? I think so far.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
or maybe even all 4. I don't know.
I think yeah. I love this market, and this is where Bet Rivers are a standout actually, because there are very few bookmakers offer this sort of thing, which is how many shots on target. So yet again, I've been through all the games in League One, and the player who I think is worth backing to have over 0.5 shots on target in this round of games in France is Junior Krupi of Lorient against Brest. Junior Krupi is plus 180 to have a shot on target in this game. Now that makes him the 6th biggest priced Lorient player of the 8 players who are offered here on this game. And Junior Krupi is actually the 4-goal second top scorer for Lorient this season. So I think this price is too big. He might not start. That's worth saying. First of all, he started 9 out of 16 players, 9 out of 16 games, I should say. He's only 17 years old, is Junior Krupi. He's one of the youngest players in League One who's starred this season. But if he does start, he's a really dangerous player when he gets into the penalty area. And I think that's why this price just looks out by a long way to me. He's got those 4 goals in the league. He's also got an excellent scoring record for France at youth team level. For people who've watched him there, he's got 15 goals in 23 youth international games for France. But what's crucial, Dan, about this pick, it's not just about his goal scoring, actually. If you watch Junior Krupi, he doesn't miss the target much. He's a really natural finisher when he gets into the penalty area. First time chances, even tricky ones, coming at him quite quickly. He generally works the goalkeeper. So for this tip, you don't need him to score. It's important to stress that. It's not about goals. It's just over 0.5 shots on target. So if he starts, and it is an if, because he's not a guaranteed starter, but if he starts, I think you've got a good chance of him managing a shot on target here. And as I say, that price makes it look as though is he going to get a shot on target? Plus 180. Honestly, I think his chances of doing so are better than that. So he's my tip on that round, on this round of games. And yeah, the prices, as I say, with Bet Rivers in this market, usually there's one or two per round that you can find. And for me, this final round of games of the year, Krupi is the player to back.
Let's get Will's hot dog. A couple of shows ago, Will's hot dog was enough for Will to win the challenge. So they are all important because they can be the tiebreaker, and they will be this week because they all come on the midweek card. Will, what you got for us? La Liga we go.
Yeah, we're going to Granada versus Sevilla. And I like the look of Granada to get the win here at a big price, plus 185. I feel like this is a play out of Steve's playbook of taking on a poor team. And I think Sevilla are a poor team at the moment. They're in turmoil, really, having just been entirely knocked out of Europe. They lost 3-0 at home to Getafe over the weekend. They're languishing just outside the relegation zone, and they've sacked their manager, Diego Lopez, after only 9 weeks in charge. They are winless in 15 games outside of Copa del Rey in their last 15 games. And they're riddled by injuries. We've discussed this before. And in addition to the players they've had missing over the past few games, they'll also be missing key player Rakitic, who's suspended for this game. I can't say that Granada are particularly great. Their underlying data suggests they're one of the poorer teams in La Liga, but they were backed heavily last time out at home versus a very impressive Bilbao team. And that sparked my attention. That game ended in a draw. Tragically, a Granada fan lost their life, so that game had to be suspended and restarted the following day. But if you look at their prior home game to the Bilbao game, it was a 3-2 loss to Villarreal. But if you look at the underlying data, they really deserve to get the 3 points. And I can see them getting the 3 points here. They've got some potent attacking weapons that can hurt Sevilla here. Brian Zaragoza, Lucas Boye, and Gonzalo Villar, all creative threats. And just given the atmosphere around the Sevilla team at the moment, I've said previously, you need a good reason to back a La Liga team away from home as a favourite. And I can't see how Sevilla have been priced up as favourites for this one.
I asked these questions and you guys usually sort of dismiss them out of hand. Can Sevilla go down plus 700? Will, do you think they're that bad, that much in a state of chaos, or do you think there's still enough quality there and at some stage someone will get hold of the squad and they'll be okay? They're just outside the relegation zone.
Yeah, I wouldn't be backing them at plus 700. I think there is enough quality there. They should get some of their missing players back. They should bring in a new manager that will be able to get more out of this squad, yeah.
Let's get a few more picks, shall we, for the challenge. We've got James and Will's second pick to come. James first up, once again, Ligue 1. Nice against Lens here. Nice plus 123, Lens plus 245. Again, it's Wednesday, 3 p.m. Eastern. If you're playing, there's lots of betting in play action, of course, on the Bet Rivers website. Real bonanza of top flight football in France on Wednesday, 3 p.m. onwards. James, Nice's unbeaten record went earlier this month. Unders backers are starting to get nervous as well. Many have cashed over the course of the season, but not the last two. How do we go about this particular game? Are we fading Nice? Do we think they are going to continue their slide? What's the play?
Yes, I am backing Lens here, Dan. Lens plus 0.25 on the Asian handicap at minus 115. So as long as Lens avoid defeat here with this pick, you'll make a profit. And this pick for me is all about momentum with these two sides at the moment. You've read out the prices there. Nice are clear favourites. If you look at the league table, probably we wouldn't have much argument with that. Nice being, I think, five places and 6 points above Lens in the table. But if you look at the form book, then it does tell a different story because Nice have lost 2 of their last 3 matches. They've started to wobble. The defence, which had been tremendous through the first 12 or 13 matches of the season, has started to struggle. And the opposite is true of Lens. Lens had a really poor start to the season. If you look at their form, not just in the last 3 or 4 weeks, but actually over the last couple of months now, they've become one of the best teams in League One. So, yeah, Lens have won 4 and drawn 1 of their last 5. They've won 5 and drawn 2 of their last 7. Lens are actually now unbeaten in 11 games. They've won 7 and drawn 4 of their last 11 games. So you look at the league table and you look at Lens having lost 4 times. You might think, well, that's a team who've already lost 4 times in the first half of the season. It's not great. But all of those defeats came in August and September, where by their own admission, actually, for various reasons, they were struggling. And they're simply not the same team now. Lens are playing really, really well. So I actually think their chances here of getting something from this game have been underrated by the market. And I think that Nice's price is too short. So looking at those match odds, I definitely think the value here lies with Lens, and that's my thinking on the pick. And just very quickly on the goals markets, I didn't really fancy the goals market myself across any of the games actually in League One, but I think it's worth flagging up some team news on this game, Dan, because there are a lot of defensive players missing on this game. You've got 2 of Lens's regular back 3 suspended. That's Jonathan Gradit and Kevin Danso. And for Nice, you got that holding midfielder, Ndiaye Shimier, or Yusuf, as he normally has on his shirt. He's out, and so is Todibo at centre-back. Now, that is 4 really, really big defensive players missing this game. And when you look at the goal line, actually overs at plus 123, over 2.5 goals. Honestly, if you're someone that likes to back overs based on team news, this might be a game to go overs. Or you could back over 2.25 goals here, which is available at minus 106. I know Steve is a big fan of the plus minus 2.25 line. I think plus 2.25 overs at minus 106, just based on the team news here, is worth looking at. So as I say, that's not my pick on the game. I've avoided the overs. I'm back in Lens here on the handicap, but I do think for people who like team news that overs might be worth looking at on this game as well.
Steve?
Yeah, I think it's the first time I've ever heard anyone suggest backing an over in an East game this year. But it makes sense based on that team news. The problem Nice have had is they became so reliant on their defense, they've forgotten how to actually attack, in my opinion. And both of these sides significantly underachieve in front of goal this year, so that would be a concern. But I certainly think James on the right side with the bet. I think Lens, the 2 teams I think will move up the Ligue table in the next few weeks and a couple of months is Lens and Marseille. I think those are the sides to watch out for. And Lens, I'd be surprised if they suffer defeat in this fixture. I think there's probably a good chance of a draw. So I think we're looking, very good chance of a half cash here on this handicap. But yeah, if either side is to win it, then I would go Lens, because Nice have just lost their way a little bit, Dan. They've lost a little bit their indestructibility. I mean, you can't be conceding 3 goals to Le Havre. That's just not good enough. And I think it's a better surprise me, actually. I thought James would go for someone like Brest or Rennes actually for his second pick. But I think he's certainly on the right side here.
Will's second pick is again in La Liga, and we go to Barcelona Almeria here. No wins in 3 across all competitions for the Spanish champions. Last failed to win 4 on the spin. March 2009, I worked it out. I could well have got that wrong. Don't at me. Will, you have played Barcelona with varying degrees of success this season, although they have let you down as well. How do we squeeze some value out of a Barcelona side that are minus 625 to win at home?
Yeah, Dan. So the pick here is Barca to win the game and under 4.5 goals, which comes in at minus 137, which just about meets our cutoff. It's a massive game for both teams. Barca need to win to really stay in touch with Real Madrid and Girona at the top of the table. Almeria, who are bottom of the table, clearly fighting relegation. But the expectation's all going to be on Barca to get the win here, and I think they will. I think that's the kind of easier part of this same game parlay. Despite seemingly poor form, Barca's underlying data is still the strongest in La Liga. So they've really been unlucky in terms of their chance conversion and chance conversion against being particularly high. It's hard to not see them winning this game, but I do think Almeria will keep the scoreline under 5 goals. Despite being bottom, their underlying data has actually improved quite dramatically over the past 4 games. with an average of 1 expected goal against conceded per game, which is quite impressive for a team which is bottom of the table. They've switched to a 5 at the back over the last couple of games to try and provide more defensive stability. And I think it's working for them to a certain degree. They just need to try and turn that into some results now. They did manage a point over the weekend at home to Mallorca. Overall, though, Barca have seen 13 of 17 games this season in LaLiga come under 4.5 goals. Almeria, 13 of 17 under 4.5. So if you marry all of those together and you look at the line here of 4.5 goals, which is, essentially we win the bet if Barca win the game and there are fewer than 5 goals, I think it's a great pick. We're also likely to see some rotations due to the schedule and the fixture congestion. So it might take both teams some time to find their creative flow. There's no Frankie de Jong for this game, no Robertoni on the Almeria side. So yeah, I really like this pick. Barca win under 4.5 goals.
Is that your go-to minus 4.5 just to boost it when you're looking at Barcelona and Real Madrid? Is that the first sort of metric or market off the back of a short price favourite to try and get it up to something like even money?
Yeah, I was just surprised, really. I'll go through all of the lines, right? So I'll go through all the same game parlays, the 2.5, the 3.5, the 4.5, sometimes the over 1.5 or the over 2.5, and look for which kind of gives the most compensation for the proposition. And the under 3.5 goals here would be clearly plus money on the same game parlay. And I think at minus 137, I think I was surprised to see the over 4.5 come in at the under 4.5 come in at a reasonable price.
Steve, what do you make of Barcelona to win under 4.5 goals?
It's a good bet. I like Barcelona win to 0 as well. I think you could look at plus 102. I got completely Almeria wrong the weekend game. A hot dog. They offered absolutely nothing against Mallorca at all. I think Will's right. They obviously want a bit more defensive stability now. I just really struggle to see how they're going to hit the back of the net here. I think it's a case of damage limitation. Come here and don't get beaten big. But I think Will's covered here the 2-1 and the 3-1 score as well, which gives you even more security, doesn't it? The only danger, I suppose, is something like 4-1 or 5-0. But Barcelona, they don't rack up the score that often, do they? So it just looks a really solid sort of, I don't like to use the word banker or lock, but it looks a really solid play.
Steve, let's get your picks. You went 2 from 2 at the weekend for our viewers and listeners. You've gone Germany for both of your picks, one Tuesday, one Wednesday. The Barcelona game, incidentally, is a 1 p.m. Wednesday Eastern kickoff. Tuesday, first of all, Steve, talk us through Dortmund against Mainz, because this is a juxtaposition here when it comes to unders, overs, and goals. How have you squared this circle? Because for me, we know that Mainz, you want to go under. Dortmund, I backed them overs. They didn't get it at the weekend, but there was a massive XG on their game. How have you gone for this one? What's your play?
Yeah, I thought long and hard about this one because I've been backing Mainz unders since this new manager took over, Jan Sievert. I mean, the results since he took charge is 2-0, 0-0, 1-1, 0-1, 0-0, 0-1. And Mainz, the problem is they just don't look like scoring goals. They dramatically underachieve. They keep missing chances. It's no fluke now, is it? I don't think they are going to start suddenly scoring goals down until they bring new players in, because the current ones they've got are not good enough. You wouldn't trust anyone to hit the back of the net for them. The goal line here is 3.25, and I think it's a little bit too high. Minus 108 on this goal line, so it can actually go over 2.5, and I could still cash a half winner. I'm drinking from the same watering hole, but there is a danger here, I suppose, because Dortmund and me do not get on very well this season. I suppose it's a bit like an antelope, aren't I? Here in Africa, drinking from a watering hole, and I'm looking around where the lion is there, and am I going to get eaten alive by Dortmund again? Because I can't get this team right at all. But one thing I do know with Dortmund is that their games tend to be either crazily over or quite significantly under. Actually, they've won 3 games at home 1-0 this season. So against this type of team, I think we get a game pattern where they have to break down a wall of 5, probably, keep knocking on the door, and eventually they find a way through. Because I just don't think Mainz are going to come here to try and play with them. So I think you're looking at, say, 2-0 Dortmund, maybe, something like that. I think Dortmund -1 Asians wouldn't be the worst bet in the world here, by the way, because I don't think Mainz will score a goal. So under 3.25, I'll keep riding this under strain with Mainz and just hope I get the Dortmund right for once.
Bundesliga, as you know, has been a good league this season for overs, and that includes team totals, and that includes specifically Gladbach. We've had quite a bit of success with them previously, Steve. They're away at Eintracht Frankfurt, Wednesday, 2:30 Eastern, and this is your second play.
Yeah, going with the team total here, Mönchengladbach, over 1.5 team total goals at +145, which I think is a big price. As you know, I'm a big fan of this side. I think they... There's a really good team here in the making, but they keep making mistakes. They're a really annoying team to back in terms of money line or handicaps because they just concede too many goals down. So I think the best line of attack with them is to go with their own goals because they cannot play a full 90 minutes without conceding chances. I think they can come into Frankfurt and get themselves a couple of goals. The Frankfurt side, who I still don't know what the hell happened in that Bayern game. Like, that's the one good performance that Frankfurt had in the last sort of month. I'm almost willing to put it down as an exception. So I think that they're very gettable. They've had a lot of matches recently, Frankfurt, and at some point it's going to catch up with them. Gladbach played on the Friday night against Bremen, so they've had even more rest ahead of this game. It could be significant. They've always got goals in them, Dan. That's what I love about Mönchengladbach. And I would take them on, say, a +half handicap here, but you're dicing with death because, they've scored 2 goals 10 times this season. They've only won 5 of those games. So you just can't rely on that defense. So, yeah, I think the team total angle is the best way with Borussia Mönchengladbach at +145. Big price, in my opinion.
Yeah. Massive price, huge. That's Gladbach team total +145 in their game away at Eintracht Frankfurt, 2:30 Wednesday. We've got an awful lot of leans to rattle through, so I'll have to hurry you, gentlemen, as we go through these. James, you've got one for us again Wednesday, 3 p.m. in Liga. What's your lean?
Yeah, this is on the Lyon versus Nantes game, and I'm opposing Lyon here, Dan, because I just think they're so short at -155 to win this game. Now, this price is partly a reaction to the fact that Lyon, who have been awful all season and bottom of the table most of the season, have won their last 2 matches. They beat Toulouse and they've beaten Monaco, and they won both those games 0. So hats off to them for that. There is a slight improvement from Lyon, but I don't think they've improved as much as this price would suggest. I think -155 at home to an unremarkable but potentially quite solid Nantes side is an overreaction to 2 wins, especially as they didn't play, in my opinion, particularly well in the second of those 2 wins against Monaco. So when I saw this price on Lyon, I thought that's too short. I'm willing to oppose them here. So I'm backing Nantes on the Asian handicap +0.5. Goal start, which is available at 123. I think that's a great price. It's a really good plus money price. And it means that as long as Nantes avoid defeat here, then you're going to make a profit.
Will, Wednesday, 3:30 for you first up. Athletic Bilbao against Las Palmas. What have you got for us here?
I like Athletic Club -1.25 goals at -113 to get the job done here. They were very impressive in the 2-0 home win versus Atleti over the weekend. They've just got such a potent front four that are really cohesive. They offer a massive threat, and I can see them racking up a big score here. The underlying data shows that Athletic's attacking output is in a similar kind of level to that of Real Madrid, FC Barcelona, Atleti, and Girona this season. Las Palmas, based in the Canary Islands, traveling may start to take its toll during a period of fixture congestion. And they're also missing 2 key players, Kirian and Alberto Moleiro. So I like Bilbao to get the job done here and potentially rack up the score, knowing that we get half our stake back if they only win by the single goal.
Steve, you're hoping for a single goal winning away, but I guess 2-0 will get us both of these leans in. Steve, what's your lean in this one?
Under goals, I think, Dan. Under 2.75 looks too high a goal line here. Las Palmas have they've not had a single game this season go more than 3 goals. They've it's one of those the goalkeeper has been brilliant for them. Will mentions the underlying data here, and based on the stats, then Bilbao should rack up a good win. But I've been here before with goalkeepers. James will know last season in Ligue 1, there was 2 or 3 keepers that kept frustrating me. And I don't want to be betting against these keepers, but I mean, they just find a way of reducing the score. He saved 2 penalties this season. Alvaro Valles is his name. He's really impressed me whenever I've seen Las Palmas. I think Bilbao win the game, but you're looking, I think, 1-0 or 2-0. Las Palmas play very defensive football. And I was surprised for them in a game where the goal line is so high.
2-0 would serve our purpose for both of these leans. Let's get back to Will with a couple of Thursday games. 1 p.m. Eastern is Betis against Girona. There's a bit of a caveat here. Just talk us through your thoughts on this one, Will.
Yeah, it's tough to oppose Girona at the moment, but I feel like it's something we're going to be doing more of on this show as the season goes on. They're getting priced up very short for their games. You know, Real Betis are a very strong home team here, and they're being priced up as underdogs. There are lots of factors that I feel play into their favor here, so I'm happy to back them on the draw no bet or the +0 Asian line at -105. Betis were just really good over the weekend versus La Real. They won the XG battle. They've got an extra day's rest here because Girona are playing Alaves tonight. They're used to rotating their squad because they've been in the Europa League. And, you know, this also fits with my model, which makes Real Betis slight favourites here. As I mentioned before, very strong home team. They've won 4 of the last 5 at home in La Liga. And overall, I just think the market's a bit distorted on Girona due to their win versus Barca. And the underlying data suggests that they should have lost that game and they're likely to come back down to earth at some point in the next few game weeks. On top of all of that, Tsigankov is a doubt for Girona. They might have to take this game as an opportunity to rotate quite a lot of their key players. The thing that holds me back and makes this a lean instead of an official play is Isco is going to be suspended for this game for Real Betis. He is without doubt their most creative player, probably their best player this season. So for that reason, it's just a lean.
Just a lean. Betis on the draw, no bet. I think, as Will points out, people are going to start to try and get against Girona if they're continuing to be relatively short.
I agree with that pick, by the way. I looked at Betis. I nearly had Betis as my hot dog this week because they've also got an extra period of rest heading into this game. And I think, you know, I was on the reaction show yesterday with Ruri Barlow. Ruri's actually predicted Girona to finish 5th in La Liga. He stuck his neck out. And, you know, it kind of that really stuck in my mind when he said that. And I think that they're a team that we want to be opposing a lot more in the second half of the season, Girona. I guess the problem, and Will, you'll know this as well, is that as soon as they have a stumble, are they going to quickly revert back to the prices they were, say, a year ago? Is that fall going to be quick in betting terms, do you think? You're going to have to catch them maybe for one game rather than being able to catch them at a fair price for 2 or 3?
I don't necessarily think that'll be the case. I mean, at the end of the day, they're solidly in that top 4. So even if they have a couple of poor results, they're still going to be solidly in that top 4. And bettors in the market's going to look at them and think that they're, you know, a top 4 performing team. What that will do to their confidence, who knows? But I think we'll have many opportunities to take Girona on at fair prices going forward.
Yeah, I think there is with Leon. I mean, it's a different set of circumstances, obviously, but they've slightly changed the way they play recently. Leon, they've got an interim manager in charge who's gone to a back 3, made them a bit more solid. I just feel, having watched the 2 games that they won, that they weren't actually that much better. That's my view of it. So, yeah, I think this is a sort of team-by-team thing. But, you know, in a way, that's kind of what we're looking for every week, isn't it? Those teams who are maybe underrated, overrated, and then you've got to act when you can and then, you know, be brave enough also to pull out if you think the changes in prices have occurred.
2 more leans, both in one in Spain, one in France. Will, your one in Spain first of all, involving the league leaders. Are they the league leaders, Real Madrid, or not? I can't remember if they are or not.
They are again now.
They are again.
Yeah. I like them to get the job done here, and in the same game parlay over 1.5 goals. that comes in at -114, which I think is a very attractive price. I like taking big teams during periods of fixture congestion due to their ability to manage their squads better. The smaller teams tend to have smaller squads and tend to have trouble rotating during these periods. And I think that might happen with this Alaves squad, which is quite thin. There's also an extra day's rest here for Real Madrid. So I think the cards are really stacked in their favor. Real, just a bit of a juggernaut at the moment. They've won 19 of 23 this season across La Liga and Champions League. Alaves' underlying data is strong, actually. They have a slightly positive net XG per game, which is very impressive for a team of their stature. But how sustainable is this? I'm not so sure. I think they're a team that also I'll be looking to take on as the season goes on. So yeah, Real Madrid to win the match and over 1.5 goals. This is a lovely same game parlay here at -114.
Steve, last word on the leans from yourself in France.
Going with the cards market here, Dan. Brest against Lorient over 3.5 cards at -112. I think it's a really big price. It's a big local derby. These two teams absolutely hate each other. It's a really crunch fixture, and I think Lorient have got to show something here. I think it's quite a bettable game. James has got his hot dog in this fixture. Lorient might get something, because if they don't show the fight here, then I don't know when they are going to. And you might card me for this, but in these local derbies, you throw the form book out the window.
I haven't got.
As I've always said,
I'm not at home.
That's why I said it. That's why I said it, because I knew you didn't have your cards with you. But I think this referee's going to have his cards with him. Mattia Vernice, is it Vernice, James? I think that's how you pronounce him. He has given at least 4 cards in every fixture this season. In his last match, I love this. He issued 7 cards in actual match time. But if you include cards that he issued to managers and then after the final whistle, he gave a total of 18 cards in Montpellier against Clermont. 18 cards. He kind of, I don't know what's happened to his refereeing this year. I've seen a couple of his games. He started to lose control. And I think over 3.5 cards at -112 is well worth a look. And plus 460 for a red card, Dan. The red card has landed in this fixture in 4 of the last 5 head-to-heads. I'm telling you, it gets spicy. It gets really feisty as well, this game. And it could be a bloodbath.
Interesting. But I can't remember the name of the referee who was in charge of the Argentina-Netherlands World Cup game. Was it Senor Lajoz? Can't remember. He was like dishing cards left, right, and centre. Was at the end of that one. Okay, so that's a cards play or a lean from Steve. Let's just get back to the picks from the boys here who go head to head. James versus Will. James, remind us of your 2 selections for the challenge this midweek.
My first one's on PSG versus Metz. It's PSG -2.25 on the Asian handicap at -114. And my second one is on Nice versus Lens. It's Lens plus 0.25 on the Asian handicap at -115.
Will, what are your 2?
My 2 plays are Atletico Madrid versus Getafe, both teams to score yes at +128, and Barcelona versus Almeria. Barcelona win and under 4.5 goals, -137.
I like the way Will has played it this week with the 2 picks with the prices. I think Will might squeeze home. Steve, what do you think?
I'm going to predict Will to win because if he wins his 2 picks, then he prevails. But because of the prices, I think we're due a really big week, Dan. I think all 4 picks win.
All 4? Or are you including your own? All 6?
Well, maybe a pretty confident 5 out of 6. I mean, I can't guarantee Dortmund don't do the dirty on me.
Steve, James, Will, many thanks for your company. Good luck to one and all. Midweek card. We'll keep you up to date, of course, via our Twitter feeds. That's a wrap for Betting Weekly Extra Time European show. I'll be back alongside Steve on Thursday, as will one of James or Will, who will be up against Daniele Fissi-Keller. We might have to throw the net wider in terms of the leagues that we cover. Keep posted on that one. Stay across all of the Bet Rivers content as well via app Because We Win from all of us. For now, though, it is goodbye.